Am I the asshole for ruining an engagement by revealing the truth about my horrible ex from 10 years ago? Original post. A little backstory is needed, so please stick with me. Growing up, I, F27, had a childhood friend, Angie, F27, who was as close as a real sister. We spent entire weekends at each other's place, celebrated family events, etc., from 6 years old till 18 years old. Elle even lived at her place in 2nd grade while my parents went to a nasty divorce. I learned to speak some Russian, as she is Russian, and she learned to speak some Spanish. Needless to say, her older brother and little sister were like a family to me. During our teenage years, she had her 2 male best friends, one whom she started dating, and another one, Nico, now 29, who was Russian as well, whom I started dating at 17. Growing up, I had issues with a heart condition. I won't bore you with the details, but I had to take a lot of meds, but got healthier starting from the 16th. I didn't have to take them daily, but only when my heart rate became irregular. But then immediately, as it would become extremely painful, my heart would cramp, I would start to hyperventilate. All my friends knew this, Nico included, and that I would black out if my meds got taken with alcohol. I didn't smoke much or drink much growing up as a result, since I was worried about my health and only did drink at home or in a safe setting. Legal drinking age is 16 here, and I only drank wine or beer if at all. I had my first time with Nico at 17, and when my parents stayed at a retreat 2 weeks later, he came over to have a date night. I did drink 1 glass of wine, but started having health issues later, resulting in me taking my meds and being unconscious. I was a bit sore the next morning but didn't think much about it. 2 weeks later, I'm informing Nico that I'm late on my period, and he starts to panic, confessing he had sex with me while I was unconscious. We had it before, so he didn't think much about it. Apparently he didn't have a condom, but since I was on the pill he figured it was all right, and he also didn't come in me, but in a tissue. I felt violated and disgusted by myself. I didn't know how to describe this and only told Angie about it. I was an utter mess for a few years, and wasn't able to have sex again until 2 years later. I didn't remember any of it, but was too ashamed to go to my mom or anybody else. I didn't think of it as rape back then. I was too young to really understand what and how I was violated, and Angie told me it's all right, I should break up if I feel bad about it, but we were in a relationship and did have sex before. I broke up with him the following day, and apparently he cried about his broken heart to her. As Nico and Angie were close and hanging out together a lot, they started dating a few months afterwards, and I had to see him every time when visiting her. I told her I'm not able to see him, but she didn't understand where I'm coming from. The contact stopped and we haven't texted or seen each other in years. I still followed her and her family and saw that her brother is expecting his first child. As I was extremely close with her family, I just commented on the Insta post expressing my gratitude when he reached out to me. I missed his wedding, but he wanted to ask if I would be interested in joining the baby shower, as it's been years and we've been extremely close before. He told me I was like a third little sister. I just asked if Nico will be attending as well, as Angie and him have been dating for 9 years now, and he said yes. I didn't elaborate much but just expressed that I'll send a small present if he can give me his current address, but won't be attending. He kept on pestering me what exactly happened all those years ago and why I'm not in their lives anymore. Angie told her family I'm not able to see her with an ex of mine, but her brother thought there's more behind it. This is when I think I could be the asshole. I told him the truth about what happened back then. And while I didn't know it at 17, I know now that this was rape, and I named it as such. I didn't receive any message back from him, but a few days later Angie reached out to me, furious. Nico had planned to propose during the baby shower, but Angie's brother is against it now, having learnt why I stopped the contact. She loves Nico and will stay with him, but by doing so, her brother said she is no longer a part of his life, as he doesn't want his little baby girl in the same family as a rapist. Since then I've been getting messages from old high school acquaintances, telling me I should have ignored it and not told anybody. Since I didn't speak up back then, I lost the right to do so now, and am a horrible person for ruining somebody's life over some stuff he did 10 years ago when he himself was a child as well. Am I truly the asshole for speaking up? AITA has no consensus bot. OP was NTA. Relevant comments. OP responds to multiple comments about how things are wrong, and she could speak up. OOP. I understand now how wrong it has all been, and that it's rape. But we grew up in a small town with approximately 5,000 people, and I honestly don't know which way it would have gone if I would have spoken up. He was 19 back then, 2 years older, and everybody is in everybody's business. It would have made sound back then, like it does now. They all still live there, and it has made its rounds. That's why so many of our old classmates are reaching out. Most of those who still live there have left me furious messages. They have known Nico for all their life, and are standing by him. I moved out when I was 20, my mom shortly after, and didn't stay in touch most. It still breaks my heart to get such a furious response from people who are my whole childhood. And thank you for all your best wishes. I genuinely appreciate it. OP did not ruin Nico's life. He did this himself. OP. I understand that what happened is on him. The backlash I am getting is because he apparently is not that person anymore, and in something he did as a teenager, according to Angie, should not ruin his life and is in no way related to the daughter her brother will have. I don't know if he will ever act out or do something, but it doesn't invalidate what happened to me, so thank you for confirming this. I just can't stop feeling bad about this having so many consequences. While I do not want to see Nico or Angie, I have made my peace with what happened to me back then. Commenter. But why are they attacking you and not the brother? You are not the one objecting to the marriage. Just feels like misogyny and victim blaming tbh. OOP. I guess because he is family, and I'm the outsider who ruined their family. I have been getting so many messages from people who didn't even have my number back then. I'm blocking the best I can. It's just hard to not let these comments get to your heart. Commenter. NTA. They got together so soon after the two of you broke up. I can't help but wonder if your friend was convincing you to break up with Nico because she was hoping to get with him all along. OPO, I honestly don't believe it. They've known each other for years and she broke up with her boyfriend 2 weeks before I broke up with Nico. It was a 5K town, even adding the people our age from nearby villages. Our school had 500 people attending, hence the options are very limited. OP on getting therapy in order to heal from her past trauma. OP. I was in therapy for 2 years and found peace with what happened to me. I am lucky, as I have no memory of it, but that didn't make it easier. It took me 2 years to be able to have any form of sexual contact again, but I am okay now. It's a part of me, but it's a part I can live with. Honestly, thank you for your kind words. OP on her health issues at the time when the incident happened. OP. Oh, it's not drunk blacked out. My medicine back then was supposed to lower my heart rate extremely, as I would have a racing heartbeat and my body would start to shut down, hyperventilating, my heart not being able to follow such strong use, and basically tripping over the high heart rate. My heart would start skipping beats, then not being able to follow my thin blood which flows faster than regular one, and the skipping would be the painful one, as it would start to cramp up. I'm sorry I'm not able to explain it better. English is not my primary language and I lack the medical vocabulary to fully describe it. The pill slowed my heartbeat and general body functions, thus making me extremely tired. I'd mixed it with alcohol. It would basically act like a super strong sleeping pill. My body could be thrown off a cliff and I wouldn't wake up. I did give consent for the first time we had sex, but that was our first and only time. I don't know if we would have had sex back then if I would have been conscious, as I didn't like it, being my first time and all, and wasn't that eager to repeat it. I don't think calling it rape is wrong, but what I had issues was if I should have approached this subject more sensible. In that way I can understand that I ruined their engagement plans for next week, or his surprise of one. Update 1. First of all, I am immensely thankful for all the people who took the time to not only read through my story but also comment. I read every single comment and tried to respond to as many as possible. It gave me a little bit of hope of compassion for victims of rape and also the courage to not cave to the backlash I received. Mental update. Reading all the messages defending my choices on speaking up made me realize how insecure I was about what I am allowed to do and how much I was trying to make it right to other people besides myself. This especially included Nico and Angie. All of you are right. If Nico had changed, he would have apologized, reached out, or tried to make amends in some way. Either when word got to him from his brother-in-law or at some earlier point in his life. My former best friend Angie should have been able to feel some sort of compassion if she had any respect for me as a human being or the time we spent together. Her reaction showed that I shouldn't hesitate in my actions. I went to therapy from 21 onwards and thought I moved on from the rape as best as I could, but I realized how ashamed I still am almost 10 years later about an incident that wasn't my fault at all. I was ashamed to speak up back then and afraid that people around me would look differently at me. And somehow I still felt bad about speaking up today, so I am trying to own what happened to me now and not apologize for other people's behaviors, especially as they don't even show me respect. What happened since then? I archived every nasty message I got on WhatsApp so I wouldn't have to read them, but would have the proof if needed at a later point. Angie's mom called me the following day of the incident, crying. I shouldn't have answered the phone, but during the 10 years of friendship I saw her as an aunt, almost a second mom. She always joked that while her children would run around the house doing whatever, I would always take the time to drink tea and talk with her, showing her more love and time than her actual children. While she said she's sorry for what has been and for what I went through as a child, she couldn't believe that I would ruin Angie's happiness over something like that. With Angie's brother refusing to have Nico as part of the family and Angie standing by Nico's side, it's divided their family and she is heartbroken. She has grown to love Nico like family as well and has known him for nothing more than a considerate young man who she knows will make her daughter happy. It wasn't nasty names or angry talk, just a heartbroken mother who faked to acknowledge my pain and saw the fault in me. Angie's mom tried to get me to apologize or to take it back, but I refused as I don't see the fault in me. With everything that has happened, I believe that Nico hasn't changed and is just hiding it better somehow. He can see how people are standing by him and supporting his behavior so he won't have to change. And that is something I didn't want to indulge. Angie's mom not even one used the word rape, and I tried to correct her every time she talked about it. Trying to name it for her to understand better, but she would just start sobbing more and it didn't make sense for us to continue to talk. Angie's mom used to be in contact with mine for some time, and she reached out to her after our talk. I was afraid that my mom would find out, since she's from a more conservative background. We had a long talk and I didn't get to see her, physically, yet, but she apologized for not being there for me or not making me feel like I can talk to her. I tried to calm her as best as I could, but when she asked me if my current partner knows I was used like that, I got angry. She was scared my partner would leave me if he found out, implying it was something that made me less precious or appealing. When she asked me to keep it a secret from our family abroad and in our country, I hung up. She was acting exactly the way I was afraid she would, as if it's something shameful. It was especially hard as I am trying my best to move away from the feeling of shame. She has since apologized, but it's clear that her view of me has changed. I don't yet know how to deal with it, but that's something to worry about in the next few weeks. As some of you suggested, I wrote Angie's brother, Sven, again and apologized for the mess, but am glad that it is out in the open and how proud I am that he's defending his family. I asked if his old email is still working as I would just send a gift card. He didn't respond, but I got a message from his wife 2 days ago. She thanked me for speaking up and informing them about Nico. There were apparently a few moments that made her uncomfortable, some jokes Nico made, and in retrospective she can see why. Sven apparently informed her the moment he got my initial text, and both of them have since seen Angie but not Nico. She refuses to be in the same room or house as him, and the same goes to their unborn daughter. Sven and Angie's mom has been at their place multiple times to beg to forgive Nico, and Sven caved a little. Angie and Nico will get married. Sven will attend but his wife will not. He is allowed in the family but not in contact with either Sven's wife or daughter. Those restrictions are not for Angie. Sven was suffering trying to ease his mother's worries and was not able to take a stand and cut them out completely. This is a compromise they made without his wife's approval, and she told me she's trying her best to cut them out of their life indefinitely. She wanted to move back, closer to her family as well, and thinks this is a perfect opportunity but isn't sure if she can follow through. His wife told me she's terribly sorry for all the issues that came my way and it has been a lot trying to handle the situation on their side. Sven knows it's not my fault but he doesn't want contact. It's hard for him to talk or see my name because even though he knows I'm not the guilty party, in some way I was the bearer of bad news and he sees me as the start of all this drama. She told me a few times that neither believe I'm the bad guy, they just are tired with everything and it's just been extremely hard on them. That's all that has happened so far. I am frustrated about how everything came to be. It feels like Nico will just continue with his life without having to be remorseful. I didn't want him to suffer, but I think some part of me wanted to at least receive some kind of apology for all the suffering I went through afterwards. I'm having to deal with my mother and her changed shameful view on me, and even though I'm happy it's all out, it's extremely hard to stand by my choices. My partner and my best friends both have been my shoulder to cry on during this ordeal. My best friend was especially enraged for me, and I am extremely grateful to have both by my side. Right now I'm just emotionally drained, but I'm sure it will be better once a few weeks pass. Comments. Commenter 1, you spoke up and did the right thing. If others can't handle the truth, that's their problem. Keep focusing on your healing and support. Commenter 2. NTA. Unfortunately, it's a tale as old as time. The woman is blamed and the rapist gets off without a blemish. Only by speaking the truth over and over will the situation improve, and when the boomers die off. Commenter 3. 100% the right thing. What you did may keep Nico from attacking someone else, or may encourage one of his other victims to step up. You never know how much people like you help everyone else, when you stand up and speak out and are not ashamed of what was not your fault, but will point the finger at the one to shame. You're making the world a better place. I'm sorry for the family Nico misled and the wife who was foolish enough to stay with him, but it's no longer your business. You did the right thing and it's going to help others. If no one else says it to you, thank you for doing all this. You are amazing. Update 2. My first post was 3 months ago and this one will be my last update for now. It is not a good one, but I sincerely wish to leave it all behind me. That includes distancing myself from this Reddit account. These posts helped me let go of my anger, similar to a journal, and I am grateful for all the people who are enraged with me. I hope to open it again someday, with a final happy update, but for now every little pop-up is a reminder of the anxiety I am still dealing with, and I do not have the energy to deal with this topic outside of my therapy anymore. Short summary for those who don't want to read the old post. Nico raped me when I was his girlfriend 10 years ago. I didn't see it as rape back then as I was unconscious. Afterwards I broke up with him. Shortly after, my best friend Angie from elementary school started dating him and they have been together for almost 10 years. I couldn't bear seeing him and cut contact with her and her family, with whom I was really close. Her brother Sven reached out to me 3 months ago after I left a short congratulation on a pregnancy picture with his wife. He invited me to their baby shower and I declined. After a lot of back and forth about him asking me and being suspicious as to why the contact broke off in the first place, and why I refused to be in the same space as his sister's boyfriend, I confessed what happened back when I was 17. Afterwards his family had a huge fight, with him wanting to cut Nico out of their lives for being a rapist and his mom and sister standing by Nico. I was the scapegoat and received a log of hurtful messages from both their friends and former classmates. They called me out on ruining a man's life based on a childish mistake. Nico was 19 back then. And even Angie's mom reached out to me. I was left to pick up my life, my mom being more ashamed than understanding, and started therapy again. I removed almost everybody tied to that incident: Sven, Angie, Nico, their family, old classmates. And only kept contact with old classmates who sended me messages of support. Update 2. I work in a very specialized field. To get the proper qualification it takes on average 6 to 8 years, bachelor, master and then state bar to be allowed to practice. While it is not very competitive, not a lot of people choose this profession, and it is highly sought after. My current company paid for my master's and my extensive course as preparation for the bar exam, and I have been doing well there. My HR department called me 2 months ago. Apparently they have been getting a lot of outside calls from Angie's mother and other relatives, saying I am involved in a Me Too scandal and being a liability for the company as I don't have issues ruining the lives of men. How they could imagine this could change anything I do not understand. I work for a global company, they have known me for years, I never had any issues prior and quite frankly, they do not care. However, they have been getting frustrated with the amount of calls and apparently even reached out to the police and the calls have stopped since. Nonetheless, they reached out to me to check on my mental well-being, offering to give me paid leave, till it settles a little bit, and offering company paid therapy. Therapy is covered by my country's health insurance but it is tricky to get one without waiting time. But I already had my old one on retainer and started going right after the incident. They made it clear that they invested a good amount of money in me and do not wish to lose me. I was ashamed that this part of my private life slipped into my professional one. It started to influence the career I worked hard for years to build, and while my company assured me that it would not affect the workload and clients I'm getting, word got around, and it was clear for my colleagues that I am going through something nasty, and the company does not want to deal with it. All this stress and anxiety led me to hyper-focus on my work. I took on whatever I could, paranoid that another call would come and for whatever reason, the company would move me to a dead-end department where my career would basically be over. At the same time, I started looking into different companies, who would be able to buy me out, as I am tied to my current company for 5 years after graduation, 3 more are left and I got a management position in a rival company with a huge salary jump. I couldn't be happy about it, I was just relieved I wouldn't get the pity looks from my colleagues anymore. I went to the police with all the hateful messages and the HR protocol with the call history and got a restraining order for Angie's mom. Should she contact my new company again, I have a public LinkedIn, it is needed for my job. At least I have some sort of proof that her words hold no meaning. I got asked if I want to pursue the rape but decided against it. It would open the whole ordeal again. I don't have proof, besides Nico and Angie not denying it, and quite honestly was afraid of what it would do to my career. I did keep contact with a good friend of mine who grew up in the same small town but moved away 5 or so years ago. As we share a Nintendo Switch Online family account, so we tend to be in contact at least once a year for a short phone call when she has to send me the money for the subscription, and we just tend to make a phone call with updates out of it. Yesterday was one of those days and the whole Nico thing came up. While she didn't hear it directly, her mom is still living in the small town and reached out to her, asking if I'm alright. She expressed her disapproval about how everything came to be, as she was close with Angie back in the days as well and remembered how close we were and how often we spent time together, like sisters. She informed me that 2 months later, 7 baby girls were born, and while neither Nico or Angie were seen in any of the pictures or stories with the baby, a month ago Angie and Nico had an engagement party. Both Sven, the baby, and his wife participated, and are in the family pictures. I remember how enraged Sven's wife was, and how she told me she herself felt I was comfortable with Sven. Now it is all forgotten and forgiven. Nico's parents own a few houses and gave Angie and Nico a house close to their home, and Sven and his wife apparently bought a house in the same street. It is as if nothing happened at all. Listening to my friend telling me the updates, I'm honestly not sure if I should have asked her to not tell me anything. I just feel empty and betrayed. Not by Angie, she made her choice, not by Sven, it is his sister, and at the end of the day when he asked me what happened and then didn't have the decency to answer me because he saw me as the one who ruined his family, it was clear that the truth didn't matter. Not by Sven's wife, who has a baby girl, an innocent daughter who she should protect as a mother, even though she told me she would do her best to keep her daughter away from Nico, but just by life. I fought to have it all behind me, just to have this old wound ripped open again 3 months ago when Sven kept plastering me. I got hate messages, but knowing that maybe someone would be hesitant towards Nico, when he showed strange behavior, made me feel like maybe I did right. Maybe by speaking up I helped a girl out to not be raped. My own mother was ashamed of what happened to me, told me I was to keep it quiet so my family abroad wouldn't get to hear it. Just for it all to be all good again for Nico. After everything that happened these last 3 months, I truly understand why victims of rape chose not to speak up. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. As a victim of the same type of abuse, though not art P, from a former romantic partner, you are worth more than you think. You do not need to suffer in silence, or shame. You didn't do anything wrong, or anything to be ashamed of. I am so proud of you for telling your truth. From one survivor to another, you are worthy of love, acceptance, and happiness. Life hasn't betrayed you, even though it feels like the world and everyone in it has turned their back on you. People do care, you matter, and you will outshine the shadows of your past when you find the courage to embrace the future with open arms. I believe in you, and I am proud of you. Keep being you. Commenter 2. I hope you get to heal and have no shame. From the interaction with your mother, she sounds Latin, which can be very tricky with this stuff. Nevertheless, the reaction is not on you but on her. Deutsch? I am unsure if so, but in some small tiny towns they are very backwards. All that doesn't matter, you get to deal with this at whatever rhythm you feel comfortable. You are not used. You are not less than, you are a woman that has survived. I send you a big hug. Ope. Yes, my mom is Latin, but I grew up in a small village with maybe 5,000 people. My grandpa used to be a pastor, which makes it so much harder. Even though my mom has been living in Germany for 30 years, speaks perfectly even with the local dialect, she's not progressive. It doesn't help that the small village itself isn't progressive either. I moved out at 18 and never looked back. In her eyes it is my fault since I had a boyfriend at 17 and now I am damaged goods because of the rape. We don't talk about her hurtful words anymore and she is trying her best to be more understanding, but at the end of the day it is internalized. I know I am not less, but after everything surfaced, the shame, the anxiety and less just came back, after I worked years to get over it. It will take time, I'm sure I'll get there again, even though it doesn't feel like it right now. My partner is telling me over and over again, reminding me of my worth, and I am sure one of these days it's going to stick. Thank you for your words. Am I the asshole for not trusting my girlfriend after she intentionally caused a miscarriage and lied about it for attention? Original post. I, 28 million, have been dating my girlfriend, 26 million, for 4 years. She has told me she always wanted children. We just didn't actively try for one though. I never pressured her into having a baby, it was more so her idea. I make enough and we own a home, so having a baby is something we can do. So, to clarify, I'm not mad at her for this. I'm extremely concerned and I feel like everything she has said about her wanting a baby was a lie. Abortion is also legal up to 21 weeks of pregnancy in our state. So she told me she was pregnant, she was having symptoms and took a test. She was happy about it and excited. I was happy as well and offered to make an appointment for her. We both went together and she was 6 weeks pregnant. We have been planning, she even told her friends and family. She ended up having a miscarriage at around 9 weeks. It was sudden and she was upset and I comforted her about it. It seemed very tough for her, so I did my best to try and make her feel better. I had to retrieve something from a drawer in our bedroom and I found some herbs covered under a bag. It was pennyroyal and mugwort. I was confused because I have heard of pennyroyal being used to cause self-abortions. I asked her about it and she immediately became defensive and told me that she didn't know where it came from. I kept trying to ask her about it and she ended up telling me she used it to have a miscarriage. She was crying and I was just in shock. I ask her why. I told her she didn't have to lie to me about it and I'm confused because she was the one who really wanted a baby. She didn't give me an answer about it. I told her that we need to go to the hospital to make sure she isn't hurt, since pennyroyal is toxic, but she kept declining. It's been a few days and she seems fine. I've been trying to ask her about this, but she just says she doesn't want to talk about it. Apparently, she was telling her friends and family she had a miscarriage and has been accepting condolences. She's avoiding this, but I don't want to push it towards her anymore. I'm not too sure what to do about this because I'm worried she might be having some type of mental breakdown or something. I eventually told her that she should not tell me about having a baby again, and I can't trust her about it anymore. She was upset hearing that, but what else could I say about something like this? This might make me a huge asshole, but in the back of my mind I've been thinking she might have done this for attention from her friends and family. I don't know what to do and I feel like a horrible person for even thinking about this stuff. Edit. I'm thankful for all the info on the herbs and all of the advice. I can't comment for a few hours because I'm going to not be on Reddit, but I am going to talk to her tonight, and tomorrow or whenever everything has calmed down I will make an update. AITA has no consensus bot. OOP was NTA relevant comments. Commenter 1, NTA. Speaking as a professional herbalist, pennyroyal in particular can indeed cause damage to the liver or kidneys, depending on the quantity and potency of how much she consumed. Mugwort is less toxic, but has been known to cause miscarriage as it affects hormone levels significantly. I highly suggest getting a checkup and mentioning ingesting those herbs and how much. That said, this is a relationship-ending decision. While your partner has every right to decide to terminate an unwanted pregnancy, she lied to you, concealed her decision to use a DIY, and dangerous, abortifacient, and then accepted condolences for her miscarriage that she probably caused. This indicates a level of mental health problem that is not safe for any future family plans, let alone the loss of trust for having deceived you to such a degree over such an important life-changing event. She needs therapy, and you need to leave this relationship, or choose to never have children. If she decided at a later time in the pregnancy to take herbs like this, there's a serious risk to both her and a possible child. Just because something is natural, doesn't make it safe. Hemlock is natural. Cyanide is natural. I can name 20 plants that could kill you or make you wish it had. That's why you need to talk to a qualified herbalist before making up a potion. Seriously, you need to leave this relationship. It's not safe, and she can't be trusted. Ope. Thank you for this. She won't even tell me how much pennyroyal she took, but she did tell me she drank around 8 strong cups of mugwort. I'm guessing she's worried I'd call an ambulance on her or force her to go to the hospital if she told me how much pennyroyal she took. I didn't fully see how much pennyroyal is left since I didn't get a close look. I'm going to have to recheck in the drawer. I really don't know why she won't tell me. You're right, I think I need to end this relationship, but it might be a mess. I'm going to talk to her tonight whenever I'm not busy. OOP's girlfriend needs to get in therapy because the changes in her behaviors are to be concerned about. OOP. You're right, she needs therapy badly after this, but since I can't even have her go to the hospital, I'm not sure how I can even convince her to see a therapist. I'm going to talk to her tonight and I'm taking some of these comments' advice to see what I can do about this commenter too. I can see 2 possible reasons why she would do this and act this way after. She realized after getting pregnant that she isn't ready to be a mother, most probable one. The baby wasn't yours, much lower on the probability scale. Ope, I didn't even think about the second choice, for the top choice I also get, but I'm shocked she wouldn't get a medical abortion instead. She's going to have to deal with the negative side effects of the herbs she took. She knows I'm pro-choice because I'm vocal about it, so I'm shocked she didn't come to me to see if I'd either come with her or she would go herself. We even have a Planned Parenthood near us update. Firstly, for some context, we have a Planned Parenthood that specializes in abortions like 5 minutes away. I understand people thinking she didn't want to get an abortion because of protesters. I completely understand. I drive by that specific place every single day for work. I have seen no protesters. It's usually empty besides a few cars on the side of the road. But, I still understand why she wouldn't want a medical abortion from reading the comments. I asked her why, what her goal was. She was trying really hard to avoid the conversation and left the room, but, I apologize if this makes me an asshole, but I told her if we can't have a conversation about this I have to end the relationship. She came back in and said the reason why she did this was because she never felt like her family gave her enough attention in life, and didn't feel supported by them, so she wanted to tell them she had a miscarriage so they could feel bad for her. I was confused because she could have just gotten a medical abortion and lied about it instead of just harming her body with a toxic herb. I asked her about that, and she told me she wanted to have the experience of having an actual miscarriage. I was so confused and in shock, so I didn't say much else because all of this just sounded crazy to me. She told me she didn't want me mad at her and she doesn't want to break up and she was literally begging me to not break up with her. I asked her, is there any chance the baby wouldn't have been mine? She said no. I told her she needs to get therapy ASAP. I thankfully make enough to afford therapy and I told her I will pay for her if she just please go to therapy. She agreed. I also told her she needs to go to the hospital and I was telling her all of your comments about the septic that can happen and liver and kidney damage and that kinda scared her into going to the hospital to get checked out. We went to the hospital last night and thankfully she is okay. Apparently she drank around 1 cup of it a day for a few days. I found out she was also taking some other things, high dose of vitamin C, turmeric, parsley. That's pretty much it for now, but I'm not too sure where to go from here. I love her and I do want to be with her, but all of this is so out of the blue. Thanks for all of the comments on the last post. If anything else happens, I'll make another update. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. She sounds like she has some serious mental health issues like others have said. If you choose to stay, then I would be cautious moving forward having kids with her. She's willing to cause herself self-harm for the sake of attention. There is no telling what she would do if you guys have already had the child. I've seen mothers fake their child's illness for attention before. She comes off as deeply troubled and manipulative. I don't think she wants to hurt anyone out of malice, but it's still very concerning. If you stay, therapy is a must. OP. Thank you. Yeah, the idea of having a baby is well off the table now. I'm not too sure where I'm going to go with this, but I'm heavily thinking about leaving the relationship after reading the comments. I'm just worried about her possibly harming herself if I do break up with her. Final update. A lot has happened since my last post and now everything is calmer. I'm hoping this will be my last update. Apologies since this is going to be long. In my last post I told her she needed to go to therapy ASAP, told her I will pay and everything. I just hoped for the love of fucking God for her to please go to therapy. That was the only thing I wanted. I haven't set up anything yet, because she told me she doesn't want to go to therapy now. She told me she will never do what she did again and doesn't believe she needs therapy. I was going back and forth with her on this, but she was very insistent on not wanting any therapy. I told her I can't move on in this relationship if she doesn't do therapy. She was arguing with me about it and told me if I loved her, I would stay in this relationship regardless, and it wasn't even that big of a deal. I was pretty pissed hearing that, because not only did she purposely miscarry the baby we planned for, she harmed herself for no reason, in her words, to experience an actual miscarriage, and I can't even trust her anymore. I was thinking about telling her parents at this point, and I accidentally brought it up out of worry of her mental health, me being pissed off, and she begged me, got on the ground and begged me to not tell her parents. I took her word, because I didn't want her to lose her mind even more over this. I told her I absolutely have to leave this relationship. I told her it isn't my responsibility anymore because this has honestly been making me lose my mind too. I was holding it back, but I can't really take it anymore. Also yesterday, before this fight, she publicly stated on Facebook that she had a miscarriage and was torn up about it, accepting condolences again in the comments. I brought that up to her, and she told me the same thing in my last post. She was pretty much just wanting to feel important to friends, family. She was so nonchalant about it and honestly seemed like she thought I'd think I wouldn't care. I told her to stop posting about it and to stop telling people. Back when we were having the fight, I told her seriously I can't be with her anymore. I will allow you to stay here or you can go back to your parents. She was laying on the ground crying at this point. I had my phone ready because my gut feeling was telling me that she might do something to herself. She would come out of the room she was packing in and come close to me and hug me out of nowhere. She said that if I'm breaking up with her, she wants a last final hug. The wildest thing is she came out of the room with one of my shirts on, a shirt she was not wearing before, took it off right in front of me, and told me, "Here's your shirt back." I don't know what she was trying to do. She finally ended up leaving and went to her parents. Right before she left she was crying, and I think it started to hit her that I was actually being serious. She was messaging me and calling me constantly, ranging from her just fixing this together, saying she wants therapy now, and her saying she will never do what she did again. I've been ignoring all of it. I realize this is not my responsibility now, and her parents can take care of it. Like what my worry has been, apparently, she did try to harm herself. Her mom messaged me about it. She said that her daughter is at the hospital, and I'm assuming now that she tried to kill herself. She is physically fine. That is the last of it, and I'm thinking this will be my last update. I am not going back to her, and I'm going to try and stop thinking about all of this. And get a good lock for my door. Thanks for all of the advice on the last post. Edit. I am telling her parents now. If anything happens I will just update it here. Edit 2. I ended up telling her parents. I had messages relating to this between me and her, took photos of the herbs she used, told them everything. Thankfully, They didn't accuse me or do anything drastic and thanked me for telling them. They said they will tell the hospital what I told them. Not too sure what's going on at the moment or what's going to happen after, since she is being held right now. I will update this if anything else happens. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I'm glad you pulled yourself out of the relationship, because she is not healthy, mentally. I do suggest talking to her parents to make sure they get her some real help. Her actions were really messed up. Ope. I'm thinking about telling her parents very soon. I didn't before because I didn't know if it would have been a good idea since they're the pro-life type. I understand she's not my responsibility anymore, but I don't want someone that is going through a mental break to go through even more. Commenter 2. You're not the asshole. It sounds like you've been carrying the weight of a situation far beyond what most people could handle, and you did your best to set healthy boundaries while ensuring her safety by informing her parents. Her refusal to seek therapy, manipulative behavior, and the way she handled the miscarriage, both physically and emotionally, show serious red flags that you're right to step away from. Her mental health is not your responsibility, especially when she refuses help. You've done the right thing by involving her parents, and now you need to focus on your own well-being. Stay firm in your decision, and don't let guilt pull you back into a situation that's unhealthy for both of you. I discovered my girlfriend was cheating with my brother. I exposed them at my wedding. But the drama is far from over. I, 45, am, never imagined that I would be writing this, yet I feel compelled to do so. My wedding day last week was supposed to be the best day of my life. Instead, because of my own acts and the betrayal of my family, it became a nightmare. I'm not sure if I made the correct decision, and I'm still processing everything that transpired. This is the complete tale. I believed that the woman I was seeing 6 years ago was the love of my life. After almost 2 years of dating, I was thinking about popping the question. I believed that she, 32F, was all I could have ever wanted. Intelligent, attractive, and we appeared to have similar values. I happened to find some text messages on her phone one day. I swear I wasn't spying. I had seen them when she was in the shower and asked me to check something for her. She and my younger brother, 40M, exchanged messages. I initially believed it to be harmless family banter, but as I continued reading, my heart fell. Let's just say it was obvious they were more than just buddies, because they were discussing getting together and how much they missed one another. As soon as she emerged from the shower, I confronted her. She initially tried to gaslight me into believing I was paranoid by denying it. She started crying though, when I showed her the messages. She and my brother have been having an affair for months, right in front of me, it turns out. I was heartbroken. The two people I trusted the most in the world had betrayed me in the worst way possible. Not only had my girlfriend cheated on me, but she had done it with my own brother. I told her to leave my life and immediately stopped our relationship. My brother attempted to defend it when I challenged him about it. Can you believe that he claimed they couldn't help their feelings after falling in love? As though somehow that made it okay. I told him I didn't want to see him ever again and that he was dead. My parents should be on my side, wouldn't they? False. They continued to urge me to forgive my brother, even though they were disappointed in him. They would say, "He's your brother. Family is the most important thing." In my opinion, loyalty and trust are the most crucial factors, and both my parents and brother have demonstrated that they are unaware of this. I broke up contact with everyone. I knew I couldn't have individuals like that in my life, even though it was difficult. I spent the following couple years concentrating on myself. In order to deal with the trust issues this whole mess had caused me, I began therapy, put myself into my work, and gradually began to reconstruct my life. Then I met my now wife, 39F, approximately 2 years ago. She was patient, kind, and compassionate, unlike anyone I had ever encountered. She was aware of my background and my family's problems, but she never pressured me to get back in touch with them. I felt like I could trust someone again with her. The happiest moment of my life was when I proposed to her. I was thrilled to begin this new chapter as we began organizing our wedding. Naturally, neither my brother nor my parents were invited. They were no longer a part of my life, in my opinion. I did, however, inform my parents about the wedding, not because I wanted them to attend, but rather because I knew they would ultimately learn and I didn't want any trouble. I made it apparent that neither my brother nor they were welcomed. Of course, they tried to argue. My father gave me a family lecture and my mother sobbed, but I refused to back down. On the wedding day, everything went according to plan. I felt like I was finally receiving the happy ending I deserved. My wife looked stunning, and our friends were all there to support us. That is, until right before the ceremony started, my best man rushed up to me. "Your parents are here," he stated with a distressed expression. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach when they said, And they brought your brother and his wife. Dare they? How dare they bring my brother, of all people, and arrive without invitation? I was enraged. They were supposedly unwilling to move, even after I told my best guy to tell them to leave. Barely able to control my rage, I called my father. I spat into the phone. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" He said, "Son, it's your wedding day." As though that clarified everything. "We're your family. We should be here." With a trembling voice I stated, "I made it clear you weren't invited. Especially not him." 6 years have passed, my father countered. "Don't you think it's time to let bygones be bygones? Your brother is sorry for what he did. He's married now. His wife is pregnant. Can't we just be a family again?" What I was hearing was unbelievable. Did they honestly believe that all would be forgiven if they simply showed up? That I'd throw open my arms to them? I said, "Get out," in a strong, icy tone. "All of you, get out now, or I'll have security remove you." "Don't be dramatic," my dad said. "We're already here. Just let us stay for the ceremony, for your mother's sake if nothing else." I was on the verge of losing it all when my wife showed up. She could see how unhappy I was because she had overheard a portion of the talk. "What's going on?" she inquired, her expression displaying worry. I told her what was going on, thinking she would be as upset as I was. However, my wife, always the rational one, suggested a middle ground. She answered, "Let them stay for the ceremony. It's not worth causing a scene and ruining our day. We don't have to interact with them. After the ceremony, they can leave." I understood her argument, even though I didn't like it. I did not want a family fight to be the only memory of our wedding. I agreed against my better judgment. The ceremony proceeded according to schedule. I made an effort to concentrate on my wife, our vows, and our professed love for one another. However, I couldn't help but be hyper-aware of my family members seated in the back rows, my father sitting rigidly with a fake smile on his face, my mother wiping her eyes with a handkerchief, my brother appearing uneasy, and his wife clearly pregnant. I noticed my parents approaching us after the ceremony while everyone was chatting and praising us. I stiffened, braced for conflict. However, my best man stopped them before they could get to us and reminded them of the deal, which was that they would go following the ceremony. I observed their silent argument, my father appearing stern and my mother making frantic gestures. At last, my brother and his wife followed them as they turned and departed. With a sigh of relief, I believed that the worst was behind us. The speeches followed though. In his emotional toast, my best man expressed his happiness for us and our friendship. Other friends joined in, offering wishes and amusing anecdotes. I then made the decision to give my own spontaneous speech, driven by a combination of rage, champagne, and a desire for vengeance. I got to my feet and clinked my glass to get attention. With all eyes on me, the room went silent. We hadn't planned for me to give a speech, so I could see my wife giving me a questioning look and probably wondering what I was doing. "To my brother," I murmured, maintaining my composure in spite of the rage that was building within me. There was a whisper in the audience. Those who were aware of my past relationship with my brother appeared perplexed, while those who were not likely found this to be a kind gesture. Adding, "My brother isn't here today. But I'd like to thank him all the same. You see, if it wasn't for him I might never have met my wife." I stopped, sipped my champagne and looked around the room. My brother and dad, who had been about to leave, had halted their journey. Their looks were a mix of fear and optimism as they stared at me. "6 years ago my brother did me a huge favor," I remarked, sarcasm leaking out of my voice. "He showed me exactly the kind of person he is by having an affair with my girlfriend." Deathly silence fell in the room. I couldn't stop, even though I could see the discomfort and shock on people's faces. I was releasing years' worth of repressed hurt and rage. I went on. "That betrayal taught me a lot. It taught me that the people you trust the most can hurt you the deepest. It taught me that family doesn't always mean loyalty or love. And most importantly, it set me on the path that led me to my wife." I noticed the worry in her eyes as I turned to face her. However, I was too far gone to turn back now. I said, "So thank you, brother," as I lifted my glass. "Thank you for showing me what true betrayal looks like. Thank you for teaching me that blood isn't always thicker than water. And thank you for being such a monumental screw-up that it made me work on myself. Made me become a better person, a person worthy of someone as amazing as my wife." After emptying my glass, I placed it firmly on the table. The silence that followed was deafening. I could see my brother's wife staring at him in disgust and shock, my parents looking like they'd been slapped, and my brother, well, he couldn't even look up from the floor. "Oh, and Mom and Dad," I added, "thanks for showing up uninvited and bringing him along. It gave me the perfect opportunity to let everyone know exactly what kind of family I come from. I felt a weight lift as the door closed behind them, but it was quickly replaced by another one as I turned to face the stunned crowd of our wedding guests. My brother's wife practically dragged him out as they left, followed by my parents, my mother crying and my father red-faced with embarrassment or anger, I couldn't tell. The hush was broken by my wife first, who gestured to the waiters and remarked, "I think we could all use another drink." Suddenly, the enchantment was broken. And conversation resumed, though I could hear whispers of my name everywhere in the room. With a look of disappointment and worry on her face, my wife drew me aside and questioned, "Was that really necessary?" I replied, "I'm sorry," as the adrenaline left my body. I couldn't let them get away with showing up like that, trying to play happy families after everything they've done. Squeezing my hand, she sighed and added, "I know what you mean, but this was meant to be our day. About us, our future, not about your past." She was obviously correct. In my rage, I had made our wedding about my family's turmoil rather than our love. I experienced a small remorse, but it was outweighed by the relief of finally getting my point over. I tried to refocus the conversation to more upbeat subjects, but I could tell that my outburst had clouded the event. The remainder of the reception was a bit of a haze, with people approaching me repeatedly, some expressing support and others obviously uncomfortable. I didn't really realize the consequences of what I had done until later that evening, when my wife and I were by ourselves in our hotel room. I sat heavily on the edge of the bed and whispered, "I'm so sorry, I ruined our wedding day." "You didn't ruin it," my wife remarked quietly as she sat next to me and took my hand in hers. "It wasn't perfect, but it was real, and that's what matters." I exclaimed, "How did I get so lucky to find you?" As I gazed at her, amazed by her forgiveness and understanding. She said, "I love you and I'm on your side, always," with a smile that quickly changed to a serious face. "But what you did today, it's going to have consequences. Are you ready for that?" she said. I gave a hesitant nod. "I believe so," I murmured. "We'll deal with whatever comes up together, right?" she said, "Always," and leaned in to give me a kiss. I couldn't help but wonder what those repercussions might be as we went to bed that night. I had publicly humiliated my family and exposed our private issues to the world, and while I felt justified because they had invited themselves, I was also concerned about the fallout. How would this impact my wife, who had been nothing but supportive, but I knew this wasn't what she'd agreed to when she decided to marry me. Would my brother's marriage survive this revelation? Would my parents ever talk to me again? I silently promised myself and my wife as I fell asleep that I would confront whatever came next, stop avoiding my history, stop allowing my family's behavior to dictate my life and start thinking about our future, mine and my wife's. I had no idea that the drama would continue for weeks to come, with surprises and confrontations I never expected, but that's a tale for another day. For the time being, I'm left wondering, did I make the right decision? Did I sink to their level or was it okay to publicly shame my family? And most importantly, how do I proceed from here? Thank you for reading this far. I feel like I'm at a crossroads and I'm not sure which path to go, so I would appreciate any thoughts or ideas. First update. Life threw me another curveball a week after the wedding disaster, just when I thought things may settle down. I know this is out of the blue, but I need to talk to you in person, if possible. There are things I need to know, and I think you're the only one who can give me honest answers, said my brother's wife, 35F, in a trembling voice when she called me yesterday. Incredulous, I frantically tried to think of what she may want to discuss, and then it dawned on me: the wedding, my speech, and the disclosure of my brother's affair. As soon as I hung up, I went to locate my wife, who was working on some files in our home office, and she realized something was wrong after seeing my face. I told her I would consider it and get back to her. I told her what was going on, half expecting her to instruct me to keep my mouth shut, but my wife, as usual, took me by surprise. "I think you should meet with her," she remarked after giving it some thought. "You see, we can't change what's already done. However, your brother's wife is innocent in all of this. She is now enmeshed in a tangle that she did not cause. Don't you think you should give her some closure if you can?" She was correct, and even though I wanted to forget about it, I couldn't deny that my actions at the wedding had probably completely upended this woman's life. And she was pregnant, for crying out loud, and that the stress of it all couldn't be good for her or the unborn child. My wife agreed to accompany me for support, so I called my brother's wife back and set up a meeting for the following day at a quiet cafe. My heart sank when I saw my brother's wife enter. She looked exhausted and drawn, her eyes red-rimmed as if she had been crying. She must have been in her third trimester, and as she drew nearer, I could see that her pregnancy was even farther along than I had thought. This made me feel guilty once more. As she slid into the chair across from us, she said, "Thank you for meeting me. I need to know everything. From the beginning. I need to understand what happened between your brother and your ex-girlfriend. When it started, how long it went on. Everything." I inhaled deeply before telling her everything. How I had discovered the messages on my ex's phone. How I had confronted them both. How they had attempted to defend it by claiming to have fallen in love. How my parents had urged me to forgive them and how I had severed all contacts with them. I kept a close eye on her expression while I spoke. She continued to be largely unresponsive, but I could see the anguish in her eyes and the faint quiver of her bottom lip. She was silent for a while after I was done, then she said, "Are you certain? Are you positive that it was him?" "Yes," I muttered. "I apologize, but I'm positive." Her hand instinctively moved to rest on her big belly as she nodded softly. "It was all a misunderstanding," he informed me. "Because you were attracted to his girlfriend and found it hard to believe she had chosen him. You severed relations with the family for that reason." Anger shot through me. He had lied to her, of course. Why had I anticipated a different outcome? I repeated, "I apologize," as I was at a loss for words. She gave a headshake. "Avoid becoming. You are not to blame. I'm at a loss on what to do. A baby is due in a few weeks. How can I possibly believe him? With someone who could do this, how can I raise a child?" My wife gently raised her voice. "I have no simple solutions. You're not alone though, and I want you to know that. We are here to help if you need it in any form." My brother's spouse gazed at her with an expression of surprise. "Why? You're not even familiar with me." The simple response from my wife was, "Because it's the right thing to do. And regardless of what has transpired between the adults, that baby is family." With a wave of pride and affection for my wife, I nodded in accord. Of course, she was correct. My brother's child, my niece or nephew, shouldn't be affected by any problems I had with him. With passion choking her voice, my brother's wife responded, "Thank you. As of right now, I have no idea what I will do. However, it means a lot to know that I have support." We continued our conversation, exchanging contact details and forming provisional plans to keep in touch. She was about to depart when she stopped and gave me a serious look. She remarked, "I can see why you did what you did at the wedding. I understand, but I'm not saying that was right. I am, in a sense, appreciative. At least I now understand the reality." We were both deep in thought on the way home. My wife finally raised her voice. "Are you all right?" she inquired. I let out a sigh. "I'm not sure. I feel bad for hurting her. However, I'm also relieved that the truth has come to light." "Is that really so bad of me?" My spouse gave a headshake. "It's a human. The entire scenario is complex and disorganized. There are no unambiguous right or wrong responses." Of course, she was correct. However, I couldn't get rid of the impression that this was only the beginning. The truth was now known to my brother's wife. But how would she use that knowledge? Would she go up to my brother? Drop him? What about the infant? I became aware that what I had done at the wedding had started a series of uncontrollable occurrences. My brother's wife and their unborn child were the first innocent people caught in the crossfire, and that was all I could do at this point. I looked to my wife as we walked into our house. I said, "I appreciate you being here and helping me through this whole thing." She gave me a gentle kiss while grinning. "Never," she answered. "Remember that we are a team." I nodded, appreciating her steadfast assistance. At least I knew I wouldn't have to face it alone, no matter what happened next. But I couldn't stop thinking as I lay in bed that night, unable to fall asleep. What would happen tomorrow, and how many more lives would be impacted by the truth I had let loose? Second update. Since my last report 2 weeks ago, a lot has happened in the scenario. Even though I'm still processing everything, I feel obligated to tell you what has transpired. As I previously stated, my brother's wife contacted me in an attempt to get the truth about the events that transpired between my brother and my ex-girlfriend 6 years prior. I told her everything when we first met. To put it mildly, the talk was challenging. She contacted me again a week later, her voice emotional and tremulous. She said, "Can we get together again? I don't know who else to turn to, and I need to talk to someone." The following day, my wife and I met her at the same cafe. I was astonished by her appearance. I was concerned because she appeared even more worn out than previously, with pale skin and black circles under her eyes, especially considering how far along she was in her pregnancy. She began speaking as soon as she took a seat. With trembling hands she added, "I confronted him. I asked him to be honest with me, And I told him what you told me. In the hopes that my brother had finally made up his mind, I held my breath. Naturally, though, that was too much to ask for. She went on, her voice hardly audible above a whisper. He denied everything. He accused you of lying, claiming that you've always envied him, and attempting to destroy his life. He even implied that you might be the one who had the affair and that you're blaming him for it. I was furious, but my wife quietly pleaded with me to let my brother's wife finish. With tears in her eyes, she looked up at me and whispered, I didn't believe him. I wanted to, but he seemed to be reading from a script based on his reaction. And he became irate when I asked him for specifics. He has never before become upset with me. I realized then that you were being honest. Although I was glad that she trusted me, I was sad for her and her unborn kid. What will you do? My wife inquired softly. I had seen that my brother's wife frequently made this action when she was under stress. Her hand moved to her belly. I'm not sure, she said. I just don't see how I can stay with him, and I've been thinking about it constantly. I tried to sound objective as I inquired, are you thinking about getting a divorce? Slowly, she nodded. I believe I must. Someone who can easily lie to me and to everyone else around him is not someone I can trust, and I cannot raise a child with them. How would that set an example for our child? I was unable to refute her reasoning. I was impressed by her strength, if nothing else. My wife asked if you had spoken to a lawyer. The wife of my brother shook her head. Not just yet. Before I did that, I wanted to make sure. To be sure I wasn't overreacting, I suppose I wanted to speak with you first. I told her, you're not overreacting. My brother's actions constitute a grave betrayal of trust. Furthermore, it speaks something about his character that he is still lying about it today. She wiped away a tear and nodded. I understand. I simply never imagined that I would find myself in this situation, considering divorce while pregnant. It has the plot of a lousy movie. Squeezing her hand, my wife extended her arm. She said, you're not alone in this. We are here to support you in whatever you choose to do. I gave a nod of assent. Yes, without a doubt. And not only for you, but also for the unborn child. Regardless of what transpires between you and my brother, that child is part of our family. We spoke about her alternatives for the next hour. In order to understand her rights, particularly with regard to custody of the child, my wife advised that she speak with an attorney. I offered to assist her in locating a qualified therapist, who could assist her in processing her feelings and making rational decisions. My brother's wife appeared calmer and more focused as our meeting came to a conclusion. She remarked, I believe I know what I need to do. I need to do what's best for me and my baby, even though it won't be easy. We bid her farewell with hugs and vowed to keep in touch. I experienced a range of feelings as we watched her leave, including relief that the truth was known, pity for her suffering, and rage at my brother. My wife broke the stillness on the way home. Are you aware that this isn't finished? When your parents and brother learn that she is thinking about getting a divorce, they will respond. I let out a sigh. I understand. To be honest, I'm trying not to think about it. We have to be ready, she added. They may attempt to hold you accountable for this. Are you prepared for that? I considered it for a while. I reached out to hold my wife's hand and said, we'll face whatever comes up together, right? She gave my hand a squeeze. Never, she answered. I couldn't get rid of the sensation that we were about to experience something significant as soon as we drew into our driveway. My parents would surely have something to say regarding my brother's wife's divorce proceedings. The wife of my brother was contemplating a divorce. Without a doubt, my parents would become involved. And me, I was at the center of everything. But I felt like I was on the right side of things for the first time in years. With my wife by my side and the assurance that we were doing morally, I was prepared to confront the truth, no matter what came next. For the first time in a long time, I felt strong. Nevertheless, I couldn't help but ponder what the consequences might be as I laid in bed that night. What would my brother think if he found out that his wife was actually thinking about leaving him? Whose side would my parents choose this time? Time will tell, I suppose. However, I am certain of one thing. I will not allow the truth to be suppressed once more. Not now. Third update. Since my last update, which was a month ago, things have drastically changed. The decision to file for divorce has been made by my brother's wife. Last week, she informed me over the phone in a steady, resolute voice. She remarked, I've given it a lot of thought. I've spoken with a therapist and a lawyer. After everything that has transpired, I am unable to remain in this marriage. I was concerned about her future, but I was also happy that she was advocating for herself. She interrupted me when I voiced my worries about her raising the child by herself. I'm positive, she stated confidently. I would rather handle this alone than bring up my child in a home where lies are the norm. Both of us are worthy of better. She is currently living with her parents after moving out. My brother will shortly receive the divorce papers. My father called me out of the blue 2 days after that call. This was the first time we had spoken since the wedding. He sounded exhausted as he said, "Son, we need to talk. Your sibling is in disarray. He claims that you're responsible for everything and that you have been telling his wife falsehoods." I could feel my temper building. "Dad, those aren't lies. You are aware of what he did. You've known all along." After a long silence, my father's emotionally charged voice came back. "I understand. I should have handled things differently back then. As should your mother. We were wrong to insist that you pardon him." I was taken aback. Neither of my parents had ever acknowledged their mistakes before. "My brother wasn't managing the situation well," my father continued. "He has been drinking a lot," my dad stated. "He came to our house and said that you had destroyed his life. To try to resolve everything, your mother wants to call a family meeting," he continued. "Would you think about attending?" I felt conflicted. I had a part that wanted to say no, to stop the family drama. Another aspect, though, seemed odd. I had assumed it had died years ago. Finally, I said, "I'll give it some thought, but I'm not promising anything." I shared both chats with my wife after the call. After paying close attention, she questioned, "What are you going to do?" I gave a headshake. "I'm not sure. A part of me wants to simply get rid of everything." She concluded for me, "But another part wants to go to the family meeting." I gave a nod. She believed I should go, which surprised me. She remarked, "This has been looming over your head for 6 years. Perhaps this is your opportunity to finally face it directly and put it to rest." "What if it simply exacerbates the situation?" I inquired. She answered, "Then at least you'll know you tried. And I'll be right there with you no matter what." That's the current situation. The wife of my brother is submitting a divorce petition. My sibling is going downhill. Additionally, I'm thinking of attending a family gathering that might either mend or reopen old scars. I have no idea what will occur. A part of me is afraid to face my family and all the hurt and rage that have been brewing for years. However, I also have a hopeful side. Perhaps that's a bold phrase, but I feel like my family has a chance for true honesty for the first time in years. I am confident that my wife will back me no matter what. And I know that by sticking to the truth, however difficult it may be, I'm doing the right thing. If I choose to attend the family gathering, I'm not sure if I'll provide another update. However, I would like to express my gratitude to everyone who has read these updates and provided guidance and support. Although it has been a challenging path, it has been so much easier to know that I am not alone. Good luck to me. I suspect that I will require it.